For 2 decades, I was the only parent my nephew ever knew, until his biological mother showed up at his graduation with a cake that read, "From your real mom." But what happened next didn't just embarrass her, it turned the entire auditorium against her in a single moment. My name is Elena Vance. I was 42 years old when my younger sister tried to reclaim the child she'd abandoned at birth. She was just 16 when she got pregnant. My parents were terrified. They were convinced that a teenage pregnancy would destroy our family's reputation in the small town we lived in. They said it would derail her future completely. So, they turned to me. I was 22, living alone in a cramped studio apartment, and had zero experience with babies. But when I looked at my sister, scared and alone, I couldn't say no. I took him. I raised him alone. For the first 3 years, I worked 2 jobs just to keep the lights on. I wrapped his birthday gifts in old newspaper comics. I sat through every single parent-teacher conference alone. My sister moved to the city, got her degree, built a high-powered career, and married twice. She never once called to ask how her son was doing. Then, at his high school graduation, she walked into that gymnasium carrying a cake with that message. What my son did next made my mother weep, made my sister's partner walk out, and made 200 strangers rise to their feet for a woman they had never met. Before we dive in, if you love stories about family, loyalty, and moments that define us, take a moment to hit like and subscribe, and drop a comment. Let me know where you're watching from right now. Now, let me rewind 19 years to the night that changed everything. I grew up in a tight-knit community called Oak Haven. Population around 10,000. It was the kind of place where everyone knew your business before you did. And the local pharmacist would ask about your mother's health before you even said hello. My sister Rachel is 6 years younger than me. She was the golden child, the charming one, the one who could light up a room just by walking in. I was the responsible one, the one who set the table, cleaned up after dinner, and drove Rachel to her dance lessons every Tuesday and Thursday because my mother said it would be good practice for my own future family. I loved my sister, let me make that clear. I loved her the way only an older sibling can, with a mixture of deep affection and constant exasperation. My mom, Linda, had a simple belief: Rachel was delicate. Rachel needed protecting. I was the one who could handle things. I was the reliable one, the one who didn't need praise because I was expected to figure it all out on my own. My father, Mark, mostly went along with whatever Linda said. He wasn't a bad man, just a passive one. He was there at the dinner table, but absent from every conversation that actually mattered. I was 22 that spring when everything fell apart. I'd just graduated with a degree in education. I'd been accepted into a graduate program with a full ride. I had a plan, a timeline, a small apartment with a window looking out over a parking lot, and I loved it because it was mine. Rachel was 16. A high school sophomore. She was dating a guy named Josh who drove a Mustang and worked at the local cinema. Then, one March night, our house phone rang at 2 a.m. It was my mother. I drove the 40 minutes home through the dark, quiet streets. When I arrived, Linda was sitting at the kitchen table with a cup of tea that had gone cold. Mark was standing by the fridge, arms crossed, staring at the floor. Rachel was upstairs. I could hear her sobbing through the ceiling. Linda didn't look up when I came in. She just slid a piece of paper across the table toward me. It was an ultrasound. 4 months along. Rachel had known for months and hadn't told anyone. My mother's first words weren't about Rachel, or the baby, or Josh, who had stopped answering Rachel's calls. Her first words were, "The neighbors can't find out about this." I remember the clock on the wall. It was almost 2:15 a.m. My father cleared his throat but said nothing. Linda laid out the options like a general outlining a battle plan. Adoption, but that meant paperwork, and paperwork meant people would talk. Keeping the baby was unthinkable. It would ruin everything we've worked for, she said, as if we had built more than just a reputation and a manicured lawn. Then she went to the hall closet and returned with a small, faded yellow blanket. "This was yours," she said, handing it to me. It was soft and thin from age, smelling of cedar and mothballs. "You need to help," Linda said, looking at me for the first time. "You're her sister." The next morning, my mother made it clear, if I didn't take the baby, they'd call an adoption agency by the end of the week. The baby would go to strangers. Rachel would go back to school. And we'd never speak of it again. I asked the only question that mattered, "What does Rachel want?" My mother waved her hand dismissively. "Rachel is a child. She doesn't know what she wants." My father nodded in agreement. I looked at Rachel. She was sitting on the couch, knees pulled to her chest, wearing an oversized hoodie, her makeup smeared. She was just a terrified teenager with no idea what was happening. "Rachel," I said softly, "what do you want?" She glanced at our mother, then at me, then at the floor. "I want to go away," she whispered. Linda pointed at me. "There, you heard her. She has her whole life ahead of her. I need you to remember those 4 words, because I'll hear them again 19 years later. On the worst day of my life, in a gymnasium packed with hundreds of people." I drove home that night with that yellow blanket on my passenger seat. I hadn't said yes, but I hadn't said no. And in my family, silence was the same as consent. 2 weeks later, I called my mother and told her I'd do it. I withdrew from my graduate program the next morning. Liam was born on July 14th at 3:17 p.m. He was 6 pounds, 9 ounces, with a full head of dark hair and a powerful set of lungs. I was in the delivery room. Rachel was there, of course, because she was the one in labor. Linda stood by the door, arms crossed, watching the clock. My father waited in the hallway. The labor lasted 11 hours. Rachel was a trooper. She didn't complain once. When Liam arrived, the nurse cleaned him up and held him out. "Who wants to hold him first?" Rachel turned her head toward the wall. Linda didn't move. The nurse looked at me. I took him. 6 pounds, 9 ounces. His eyes were closed. His tiny fist curled around my index finger, and he stopped crying instantly, like he had been waiting for the right person to hold him. The nurse asked who was taking him home. The silence that followed felt like it would never end. "I am," I said. 3 days later, I carried Liam into my 1-bedroom apartment. I had a second-hand crib, a box of diapers from the discount store, and that yellow blanket. I wrapped him in it that first night. It barely covered him, but it was warm and it was ours. The first year nearly broke me. Liam had colic and cried for hours every night. I walked laps around my tiny apartment, holding him against my chest, humming lullabies I barely remembered, watching the clock and praying for peace. I was working as a teacher's assistant during the day, from 7:45 a.m. to 3:30 p.m., then coming home to a screaming infant. I learned to survive on 4 hours of sleep. I learned to eat standing up. I learned to shower in under 3 minutes. One night, after Liam had been crying for 3 straight hours, I called my mother at 11 p.m. I was crying too, standing in my kitchen in a stained t-shirt. "Mom, I need help," I said, "just for one night." Linda's voice was cold. "You chose this, Elena. You're an adult. Figure it out. She hung up. Meanwhile, Rachel moved to the city for college. She'd been accepted to a private university. Tuition paid for by scholarships and our parents' savings. The same savings they said couldn't cover Liam's pediatrician bills when I asked. In October, the court granted me legal guardianship. The paperwork was simple enough. Rachel signed the voluntary relinquishment forms from her dorm room during orientation week. I filed the papers in a small fireproof safe I kept under my bed, right next to that yellow blanket. He was mine. Legally. Finally. Completely. Let me give you the next few years in quick snapshots. Liam at 1. First steps. He walked from the coffee table to the couch, grinning like he'd just conquered the world. I recorded it on a flip phone. I still have that video. Mama was his first word. Short, sweet. Perfect. Liam at 3, I started teaching part-time. A neighbor named Patty watched him for $40 a week. She had a dozen grandchildren and endless patience. Liam adored her. Liam at 4, he could read basic words. He'd read the cereal box at breakfast and ask me what ingredients meant. I had to look them up. Liam at 5, first day of kindergarten. I stood outside the school gate for 15 minutes after he walked in, just in case he looked back. He didn't. He marched right in with his superhero backpack and didn't look back. I was so proud and so heartbroken that I sat in my car and cried. No one from my family visited during those early years. Not once. No Christmas presents. No birthday cards. My mother called occasionally to ask how I was managing, never to offer help. My father sent a check for $50 on Liam's 3rd birthday. No note, just the check. Christmas morning, when Liam was 3, I wrapped his gifts in newspaper because I couldn't afford wrapping paper. He didn't notice. He thought the comics were part of the wrapping. When Liam was 6, Rachel called. It was a Tuesday evening. I was making spaghetti. The caller ID showed a city area code. I almost didn't answer it. Elena. It's Rachel. Her voice was different now, more polished, like she was trying to sound like a successful adult. She didn't ask about Liam. Not once. She asked about a car she'd left in our parents' garage years ago. She wanted to sell it. She needed the money for an apartment deposit. 42 seconds. That was the whole conversation. I timed it. I couldn't believe that was it. That evening, Linda called. Your sister is graduating at the top of her class. Don't make things difficult for her. Rachel graduated with honors the following spring. My parents drove up for the ceremony. They framed the graduation photo and hung it in the living room, professionally matted, 18 by 24. Liam's first day of school photo was on my refrigerator, held up by a ladybug magnet. It wasn't in their house at all. When Liam was 8, 2 things happened that shifted the course of my life. First, the high school offered me a full-time position as a special education aide with a clear path to coordinator if I finished my master's degree. The salary was $43,000 a year with benefits. For a single mom who had been living on assistant wages and coupon clipping, that number felt like a fortune. Second, Liam asked me a question while I was doing the dishes. Aunt Elena, why don't I have a mom and dad like the other kids? My hands stopped moving. The water kept running. He was sitting at the table behind me, homework spread out, pencil in hand, watching me with those serious, perceptive eyes. I turned off the water, dried my hands, and sat down across from him. Liam, I love you more than anything in this world. Your birth mom loves you too, in her own way. But I'm the one who's here. I'm the one who's always going to be here. He studied my face for a long moment. Then, he said, I know, I just wanted to call you Mom instead. Is that okay? I hadn't cried in years, not when Linda refused to help, not when Rachel called about a car instead of her son, not when Christmas came and went without a card, but when an 8-year-old boy asked permission to call me Mom. I broke. He got up from his chair, walked around the table, and hugged me. Small arms, tight grip. He smelled like pencil shavings and grape juice. Biology is an accident. Love is a decision. That night, after Liam went to bed, I sat at the kitchen table for a long time. I thought about calling my mother, about telling her what happened, but I already knew what she'd say. She'd tell me not to confuse him. She'd tell me Rachel was his real mother. So instead, I opened that fireproof safe and took out the guardianship papers. I read them in the light of my bedside lamp, my name on every line. Rachel's signature, relinquishing all rights. Notarized, filed, underneath the papers was the yellow blanket. I had kept it folded in the safe since Liam outgrew it. It was frayed and missing most of its original stitching, but it still smelled like baby shampoo and years. When Liam was 13, I told him the full truth. We were sitting on the porch on a Sunday afternoon. He'd been asking questions for months, so I told him everything. The late-night phone call, my mother's ultimatum, the yellow blanket, the 40-minute drive. I told him that Rachel was young and scared and not ready. I told him about the legal papers. I told him his biological mother hadn't called, written, or visited in 13 years. I didn't editorialize. I didn't say Rachel was a bad person. I just told him what happened. Liam listened without interrupting. When I finished, he stood up and went inside, closing his bedroom door. He didn't come out for 2 days. On the third morning, he appeared at the table already dressed for school. He sat down, ate his eggs, and then said, I'm not angry at her. I'm just sad for her. She missed everything. He went to school. I sat at the table holding a spatula, trying to breathe properly. Liam never stopped calling me Mom. He didn't ask to meet Rachel. He didn't ask to call Linda or Mark. He just kept being 13, awkward, brilliant, growing 3 inches that summer. And he kept being mine. While I was raising Liam, Rachel was busy collecting accolades. She got an MBA from a top-tier school, became a marketing director at a major firm by the time she was 28, and had a career that looked perfect on paper. She also collected husbands. The first lasted 2 years. The second lasted 14 months. Each time she got divorced, Linda called me, not to ask about Liam, not to check on me. She called to tell me not to add to Rachel's stress. Your sister is going through a difficult time. She doesn't need judgment from anyone right now. I haven't spoken to Rachel in years, I said. Good, Linda replied. Let her heal. Meanwhile, I completed my master's degree. It took me 4 years of night classes while working full-time and raising Liam. I graduated when he was 8. No one from my family attended. A friend from work sat in the 3rd row and cheered loud enough for 10 people. I became the special education coordinator at the high school the following year. No one called to congratulate me, but that was fine. I had stopped waiting for that call around year 4. The Thanksgiving when Liam was 15 was the first time I brought him to my parents' house in years. I'm not sure why I agreed to go. Maybe I wanted him to experience a big family holiday. Maybe I was tired of pretending my family didn't exist. We drove the 40 minutes. Liam wore a button-down shirt. He was nervous. I could tell because he kept adjusting his collar in the mirror. The house was full of relatives. The table was set for 14. Turkey, mashed potatoes, green bean casserole, a perfect Norman Rockwell painting. Linda met us at the door. She hugged Liam, brief, performative. Then she walked him into the dining room and introduced him to a cousin he'd never met. "This is Rachel's son, Liam, not Elena's son, not her grandson, just Rachel's son." Liam squeezed my hand under the table, 15 years old, and he understood the dynamic better than anyone in that room. No one asked him about school. No one asked about his science fair project that had placed second at the state level. No one asked me about anything at all. After dinner, Linda cornered me in the kitchen. "It was nice of you to bring him," she said, loading the dishwasher. "Rachel would be glad to know he's doing well." "Then, maybe Rachel should ask him herself," I said. Linda gave me the look, the one that said I was being difficult. We drove home in silence. "I don't need to go back there, Mom," Liam said. Liam's junior year was when I realized he was truly remarkable. Straight A's, advanced classes, captain of the debate team, volunteer tutor. His teachers used words like gifted and exceptional. His college counselor called me in for a meeting in October. "Liam is on track to be valedictorian," she said. "His essay is one of the strongest I've seen in years." I asked what the essay was about. She slid a printed copy across the desk. The title was centered at the top, "The Woman Who Chose Me." I read it in the school parking lot because I couldn't read it in front of anyone else. I sat in my car with the engine off, windows up, and read every word. He wrote about the night I brought him home, about the yellow blanket, about the Christmas mornings with newspaper wrapping paper, about the night he asked to call me Mom, and I cried. He wrote that biology is an accident, but love is a conscious choice. I sat in that car for 20 minutes before I could drive. 2 months before graduation, Liam showed me a group chat. He came home from school on a Wednesday and put his phone on the counter, screen up. "Mom, you need to see this." It was a family text thread. Linda, Mark, Rachel, and a few others. Someone had accidentally added Liam. The messages went back 2 years. I scrolled through them, sitting at the kitchen table. Linda, 14 months ago, "When Rachel is ready, she will take Liam back. Elena is just keeping him for now." Rachel, 3 days later, "Give me a couple more years. I'm getting my life together." Mark, with a thumbs up emoji. Another relative, "Poor Rachel. She's been through so much." I read every message twice. My hands were steady because they had to be. For 2 years, my family had been discussing the return of my son like he was a borrowed item, like I was just storing him for Rachel. I set the phone down. "Why didn't you show me this sooner?" "Because I didn't want you to lose them," he said. "Even though they don't deserve you." 17 years old, standing in my kitchen, protecting me from my own family. I didn't call Linda. I didn't call Rachel. I didn't scream. I went to the bedroom, opened the fireproof safe, and checked the guardianship papers, every page, every signature, every notarized stamp. Then I closed the safe and went back to making dinner. If you have ever been the one who holds everything together but never gets thanked, if you have been the reliable one while someone else takes the spotlight, then you know exactly what this feels like. Hit that subscribe button and stick around, because what happens next is something I still can't believe Liam had the courage to do. That night, we sat on the porch. "Why didn't you tell me when you first saw the messages?" I asked again. He was quiet for a while. Because you would have confronted Grandma, he said, and then she would have cut you off completely. And even though she doesn't treat you right, I know you still love her. I didn't want to be the reason you lost your mom. I wanted to argue, to say that Linda had lost the right to be called my mother years ago, but the truth was more complicated than that. Liam, you and I are a family. We have been since the day I brought you home. Whatever they think, whatever they plan, it doesn't change what's legally and actually true. You are my son. He nodded. I know. I've always known. I didn't confront anyone. I didn't forward the screenshots or post them online. What I did was quiet. I opened the safe and checked every document. Guardianship papers, valid. Voluntary relinquishment, signed and notarized. Medical records, my name on every consent form. I also found the yellow blanket, folded in the corner, faded and frayed. I held it for a moment, then put it back and closed the safe. 6 weeks before graduation, Linda called with news. She didn't ask about Liam's valedictorian announcement. She called to talk about Rachel. Your sister has met someone, Linda said, like she was announcing a lottery win. His name is Harrison. He's in real estate, very successful. He wants a family, Elena. A real family. I leaned against the kitchen counter. Rachel told him about Liam. She said the situation forced her to make a difficult choice. What choice? I asked. The choice to let you help. This could be Rachel's chance, Elena, her chance to finally have everything she deserves. Her chance. Not Liam's chance, not a chance for the family to heal, just Rachel's chance. Harrison doesn't know the full story, does he? I asked. He knows what he needs to know. I hung up and sat on the porch for 30 minutes. 3 weeks later, Liam came into the kitchen holding his phone. She messaged me. It was a direct message on social media from a professional account. Hi, handsome. I know this is out of the blue, but I'm your bio mom. I've thought about you every single day. I would love to meet you. I'm coming to town soon. I read it twice. What do you want to do? I asked. I don't know. What should I do? That's your decision, Liam, not mine. He thought about it, then typed a short reply. Hi, thank you for reaching out. I appreciate you thinking of me. No heart emojis. No, I'd love to meet you. Rachel replied within 90 seconds, can't wait to see you at graduation. I'm bringing someone special for you to meet. 6 weeks before graduation, the school made it official. Liam Summers, valedictorian. I got the call from the principal's office. Liam would give the valedictorian address, 5 to 7 minutes. He can choose his own topic. That evening, I told him. He smiled, that quiet, contained smile. I already started writing the speech, he said. Can I read it? Not yet. You'll hear it at the ceremony. For the next 6 weeks, I heard him practicing behind his closed door. Sometimes I heard long silences, and I knew he was rewriting something. I bought a new dress for the first time in 3 years. A friend helped me pick it out, navy blue, simple. You look like you're going to a state dinner, she said. I'm going to something better, I told her. Liam ironed his own shirt. He had been ironing his own shirts since he was 14. The phone call came on a Thursday evening, 9 days before graduation. Linda's number. Rachel will be at the ceremony, she said. She's bringing Harrison. They're flying in from the city. Fine. Don't make a scene, Elena. This is an important day for Rachel. She was bringing a cake, Linda added. Something special to celebrate. That's nice, I said, because there was nothing else to say. I hung up and went outside. The air smelled like cut grass and magnolia. After a few minutes, Liam came out with 2 glasses of iced tea. We sat in silence for a while. "She's coming," I said. "I know. With Harrison." I figured. "Are you okay with that?" He set his glass down. "Mom, I've been okay for a long time. I was okay when I was 8 and asked to call you Mom. I was okay when you told me the truth at 13. I'm okay now. She can bring whoever she wants. It won't change anything." He went inside. I stayed on the porch until the sun went down. Graduation morning. I woke at 5:30, made coffee, and sat at the kitchen table. Liam's cap and gown were hanging on the dining room chair, navy blue with a gold tassel. I had picked them up 3 days ago and pressed them with a damp cloth. Liam came downstairs at 7, showered and dressed. "How do you feel?" I asked. "Hungry." We ate eggs and toast in comfortable silence. "Can I see the speech?" I asked one more time. "You'll hear it from the 3rd row," he said. After breakfast, I washed the dishes and went to get dressed. When I came back, Liam was standing in the hallway, adjusting his cap in the mirror. I noticed something in his hand, small, yellow, folded, the blanket. The yellow baby blanket from 19 years ago. He was tucking it into the inside pocket of his vest. He saw me watching. "For good luck," he said, and smiled. The gymnasium at Oak Haven High School holds 400 people. That day, every seat was taken. A friend and I found seats in the 3rd row, left side, close enough to see the podium. I smoothed my dress and folded my hands on my lap. Then the double doors at the back of the gymnasium opened. Rachel walked in like she was entering a gala. Emerald green dress, loose waves in her hair, heels clicking on the hardwood. Beside her was Harrison, gray suit, silver watch, salt and pepper hair combed precisely. He carried himself like a man used to being in charge. Behind them were my parents. Linda wore a floral blouse and special occasion lipstick. Mark wore a tie that didn't match his shirt. And in Linda's hands, resting on a plastic tray, was a cake. White frosting, pink lettering, "Congratulations from your real mom." 200 people in the room, and my mother was walking down the center aisle with a cake that claimed my son belonged to someone else. I didn't move. I didn't speak. My friend reached over and took my hand. Before the ceremony started, Rachel made her move. She walked to the staging area where the graduates were lining up. A volunteer didn't stop her because she smiled and said, "I'm Liam Summers's mother," and technically, biologically, she wasn't lying. I watched from my seat as she found Liam in the line. She hugged him, a full theatrical embrace. He stood rigid, his arms at his sides. Harrison hung back, observing. Linda beamed from 3 rows behind me. Then Rachel turned and walked toward me. She stopped at the end of my row and leaned in close. "Elena, thank you so much for taking care of my son all these years. You've been an incredible babysitter." She paused, placing her hand on my shoulder. "But I'm here now. I'll take it from here." Babysitter. 19 years, 4,000 school lunches, 300 parent-teacher conferences, countless bedtime stories, 16 years of homework help, Christmas mornings, 19 birthday cakes that I baked myself. Babysitter. I didn't respond. Not because I couldn't think of what to say, I had 19 years of things to say. I didn't respond because I saw Liam watching us from the staging area. He was standing very still, his jaw tight. His eyes were locked on mine. In those eyes, I read a message as clearly as if he'd spoken it aloud. "Wait for me." So I waited. The ceremony began. Principal Ricks welcomed the families. The orchestra played something classical. The superintendent gave a speech full of sports metaphors. Then the graduates started crossing the stage. One by one, Rachel had moved to the second row, directly in front of me. She had her phone out, recording. Linda sat at the end of the row with the cake on her lap. Gerald sat beside her, staring straight ahead. Liam Summers. I heard his name, and everything else disappeared. He walked across the stage, tall and steady, cap straight. He shook the superintendent's hand and looked down at me in the third row. He winked. Then he walked to the podium. He adjusted the microphone. "Good morning," he said. His voice was clear and calm. "Graduates, families, faculty, thank you for being here." He started with the expected material: freshman year disorientation, the cafeteria mystery meet. The crowd laughed. Rachel laughed loudest. He talked about what Oakhaven had taught him, about teachers who stayed late, about the janitor who knew everyone's name. He was good, warm and natural. The audience was with him. Then he paused. He looked down at his paper, studied it for a moment. Then he folded it deliberately and placed it on the podium. "I've been planning this speech for 6 weeks," he said. "I wrote 9 drafts, but I realized this morning that the most important thing I want to say isn't on any of those pages." The gymnasium went quiet. Rachel was still smiling, leaning forward. Her phone was recording. She thought she was about to get her moment. "The person I want to thank most today," Liam said, "is not a teacher, not a coach, not a friend. It's a woman who was 22 years old when she was handed a newborn baby and told, 'This is your responsibility now.'" The gymnasium was silent. She had never changed a diaper. She had never heated a bottle. She had just been accepted into a graduate program with a full scholarship, and she gave it up without hesitation. He paused. She moved into a 1-bedroom apartment and figured it out. 4 hours of sleep a night for the first year. A teacher's assistant salary. Dollar store diapers. She wrapped my Christmas presents in newspaper because she couldn't afford wrapping paper. Somewhere in the gymnasium, someone sniffled. She went back to school when I was 5. Night classes for 4 years. She graduated with a master's degree, and nobody from her family came to her ceremony. One friend sat in the third row and cheered loud enough for 10 people. My friend squeezed my hand so hard I lost feeling in my fingers. She helped me with homework every night for 13 years. She taught me to cook, to do laundry, to shake hands and look people in the eye. She came to every parent-teacher conference, every school play, every awards assembly. She never missed one. Rachel was no longer smiling. Her phone had dropped to her lap. Liam looked directly at me, third row, left side. "She is not the woman who gave birth to me," he said, "but she is the woman who chose me every single day for 19 years, without asking for anything in return, without quitting." His voice didn't crack. His hands didn't shake. "Her name is Elena Vance. She is my mother. Biology is an accident. Love is a decision." The gymnasium erupted, 200 people clapping, some standing, a few wiping their eyes. My friend was crying openly. The orchestra teacher was dabbing her face with a program. I couldn't move. I sat in my plastic chair with tears streaming down my face. Rachel sat 2 rows ahead of me. She had stopped clapping. Harrison was looking at her, then at me, then back at Rachel. Linda sat with the cake still on her lap. "Congratulations from your real mom," the pink lettering facing outward. But now those words meant something entirely different. I looked at my son on that stage. He looked back at me and mouthed 2 words. Thank you. The ceremony ended. Families spilled out onto the grass. Graduates hugged classmates. The afternoon sun was warm. I was standing near the oak tree by the parking lot when Rachel found me. She came fast, heels sinking into the grass. "What was that?" she said, her voice sharp. "What did you tell him to say?" "I didn't tell him anything. You coached him. You turned my own son against me." Liam appeared behind her. "Nobody coached me," he said. His voice was even and quiet. "I wrote that speech myself." Rachel spun toward him. "Baby, I'm your mother. I gave birth to you. I carried you for 9 months, and then you signed a piece of paper and faxed it from a dorm room," Liam said. Rachel's mouth opened, then closed. "Grandma told me once that you had to go because you had school," he continued. "And you did go to school for 19 years. But you don't get to walk into my graduation with a cake that says real mom and pretend those years didn't happen." Harrison stepped forward. He had been silent, watching Rachel. He said, his voice low. "You told me the family situation was complicated. You told me you were forced to give him up." Rachel wiped her eyes. "Harrison, it was complicated. Did you sign away your parental rights voluntarily?" "I was 16. Did you sign voluntarily?" Rachel looked at Linda. Linda stepped forward. "You don't understand our family." Harrison moved his arm away. He looked at me. "You raised him from birth?" "Yes," I said. "Alone?" "Yes." He turned back to Rachel. His jaw was set. Without another word, he straightened his jacket and walked across the grass to the parking lot. I heard his car start and watched it pull away. Rachel stood in the middle of the lawn in her emerald dress, watching the only man who had ever made her want to be a mother drive away. The cake sat on the grass where Linda had set it down. Nobody touched it. Nobody ever would. In the silence that followed, something shifted in Linda's face. She was looking at Liam. Her eyes were wet. Her lip trembled. For a moment I thought, this is it. This is the moment she apologizes. "Elena," she said. "I waited. If you hadn't poisoned him against his own mother, none of this would have happened." The moment was gone. The regret, if it had ever been regret, collapsed back into the fortress of righteousness she had been living in for decades. Liam looked at Linda. His expression was patient. Not angry, not contemptuous, just patient. "Grandma," he said, "no one poisoned me. I'm 19 years old. I have eyes and ears and 19 years of memories. Do you know how many of those memories include you? 7 Thanksgivings, 3 Christmases, 1 birthday card." He paused. "Do you know how many include Mom? All of them. Every single one." Linda had no answer for that. Liam turned to Rachel. She was standing 3 feet away, mascara streaked, arms wrapped around herself. "I'm not trying to hurt you," he said. "I need you to hear that. I'm not angry. I'm not punishing you. But I need you to understand something. If you want to be in my life, you can be. I would like that. But you have to start from now. Not from a cake. Not from a speech. Not from a post that says my son, my pride, when you don't know my best friend's name." Rachel blinked. "What's your best friend's name?" "Ethan," Liam said. "Since 3rd grade. He likes the same music I do." He reached into his vest pocket and pulled out something small, yellow, and faded. The blanket, the yellow baby blanket. He unfolded it, held it up for a moment, then walked to me, took my hand and placed it in my palm. "This is yours, Mom. It was always yours." I held that blanket, thin as tissue, soft as memory, frayed at every edge. It smelled like cedar and baby shampoo, and 20 years of being someone's whole world. I couldn't speak. There was nothing left to say. My son had said it all. In the final moments, Rachel stood alone on the grass, arms crossed, looking at the ground. Nobody approached her. Linda pulled Mark toward the parking lot without a word. Neither looked back. The cake sat by the oak tree. And I stood there holding that yellow blanket, surrounded by strangers who had just learned the truth about family, about love, about what it really means to be a mother. I held that blanket, thin as tissue, soft as memory, frayed at every edge. It smelled like cedar and baby shampoo and 20 years of being someone's whole world. I couldn't speak. There was nothing left to say. My son had said it all. In the final moments, Rachel stood alone on the grass, arms crossed, looking at the ground. Nobody approached her. Linda pulled Mark toward the parking lot without a word. Neither looked back. The cake sat by the oak tree. And I stood there, holding that yellow blanket, surrounded by strangers who had just learned the truth about family, about love, about what it really means to be a mother. If this story moved you, if you've ever been the one who gave everything and got little in return, then you know exactly why moments like this matter. Family isn't about blood. It's about who shows up, who stays, and who chooses you when it's hard. That's what makes a real mother. That's what makes a real family. If you enjoyed this story, please hit that like button, subscribe to Winds of Thought, and share this video with someone who needs to hear it. And drop a comment below. Tell me about the person who chose you, or the person you chose. I'd love to read your stories. Thanks for listening. Take care of the people who take care of you. And remember, biology is an accident. Love is a decision.